I'm Indy Nidell, and this is Out of the Trenches, where I sit here in the chair of wisdom and answer your questions about the First World War. Let's see. The Marble Gun asks, a question for Out of the Trenches. I've recently started reading Poilu by Louis Bartas, good book. He mentions that some soldiers reversed the bullets in their casing in response to the Germans using explosive bullets. Do you know of any similar occurrences? Thank you and keep up the great work. Okay, the reversed bullet, it's something of a myth of the battlefield that actually happened, all right? So what I mean by that is that there were accounts, and not only French and German accounts, but there were accounts that soldiers found and used these bullets, but in reality, those were only very, very rare cases. The fear of those bullets was exaggerated by propaganda to further demonize the opponent. As the name suggests, the pointed bullet would be reversed in its casing and the cartridge filled with more propellant. Since they now lose the piercing bullet point, the blunt force when they hit would do way more damage inside a body that it hit and would lead to terrible, terrible wounds. Reversing was considered a war crime, like dum-dum bullets. A bullet where the tip was, cut in, causing it to splinter on impact. Any soldier carrying those in his rifle could expect no mercy upon his capture. One reason why reversing was not widely used was the loss of velocity and accuracy. See, they were only effective at short range. And the reversing put serious stress on the rifle. I mean, it could misfire and it would not only destroy the rifle, it could injure the soldier using it. So this made reversing very unpopular. The principle of the reverse bullet would be used in the first German anti-tank measures. Unlike the pointed K bullets that had a hardened steel core, the bluntness of the reverse bullet would deliver more kinetic energy on impact. So rather than penetrating the armor, it would damage the steel and cause splinters to shred and fly around inside the tank. Again, not very popular, but sometimes it was that or nothing. The Roasting Toaster says, what can you tell me about those Zeppelins airships that could carry airplanes? I can't find that much info about them, well, from reliable sources at least. Greetings from Sweden, also planning on supporting you on Patreon. Okay, cool. Thank you for considering or supporting us on Patreon. And thank you to all our patrons, and also for considering me a reliable source. Here's your answer. The British experimented with bigger and sturdier airships throughout the war. The 23 class airship springs to mind. Those were built by Vickers. They had a length of over 160 meters, and they were intended to carry like cannons and bombing gear. So kind of a flying fortress. In the summer of 1918, they not only made the record flight of 40 hours in the air, but also experimented with carrying airplanes for defense. That was called carrying parasite aircraft, and made the airship into a mothership, which is pretty science fiction sounding, which I think is cool because I like science fiction. They tried this futuristic concept at first with an unmanned Sopwith Camel before switching to using a real pilot, since it was kind of unclear how the plane would react by being simply dropped out of the sky. The Germans and the Americans tried similar experiments with success, but without going further into it. This concept of transporting defending aircraft would of course be adapted by the Navy. MC Herde asks, what was motivating U.S. soldiers to come to Europe and to die in the trenches? Well, okay, the motivation of U.S. citizens to enlist in military branches were really diverse. Many felt the U.S. Navy was the nation's strongest weapon and would help not only to defend the USA, but to dominate the German economy as well. So they enlisted in the Navy. Others believed, they believed that the British should fight on their own, but helping to free France was a good cause and worth fighting for, so they enlisted in the army. Some sought action and adventure, a tale to tell their children by taking part in the biggest war in history. Some wanted the benefits of a well-organized army life. African American soldiers had additional motivation to, I guess you'd call it, prove their worth, to try to escape, at least in some way, the stigma of the second-class citizen. One thing that was for sure was that United States propaganda seriously influenced and accelerated the enlisting process. They painted the picture of the American crusade, of the forces of democracy fighting against the despots and tyrants, of freeing the people of Europe from oppression and occupation. This, of course, affected many soldiers and did, of course, strengthen their beliefs. But, often it was just as simple as the chance to serve on a big ship or to fly a plane. Man, 1918, to fly a plane, that motivated people to enlist. And many, they didn't know what to expect. They had heard tales of the fighting, but could they or anyone really grasp what reality was like over there? Hey, Phil, you remember this? When we were at the Meuse-Argonne cemetery? When we were at the Meuse-Argonne cemetery, and Manon, the woman that was there with us, and she was telling us that people at Ellis Island, like coming to America for the first time, were given enlistment papers at times and said, go back over and fight, and then you come back and be an American citizen. So, there's a motivation there as well. I could probably list another 30 motivations, so I hope those few were good enough for you. If you'd like to see the special that we shot at the Meuse-Argonne Cemetery, you can click right here for that. And you can also check out our subreddit, where you can learn all kinds of other cool stuff about the First World War. See you next time.